Hi guys, this will be another commentary video for Commentary Monday. I want to give you guys another matchup between the event that I went to. There's a lot of material, so I'll be able to use a lot of commentary from this particular event. So on the left we have Diva Zombies on the left, and then we have Frog Monarchs on the right. And the Diva Zombie will start us off. We'll be using the calculator to pretty much gauge the life points. So player A decides to summon Mizuki and sets 2 back row. Not too sure what the 2 back rows might be, and honestly I probably wouldn't set 2 anyways, especially if you don't know what you're playing against. And so Zombie, even though they do like to float a lot, setting 2 is just probably incorrect here. Anyway, so player B starts his turn. He's playing Frog Monarch, so he's probably going to summon Swap Frog. No, he does not. He does a T set, pretty much guising his plays, not knowing what, not giving any information away to his opponent as to what he might be on. His sets weren't any traps that might have been chainable, like MST or Dust Shoot or Phoenix Wind Blast. So kind of telegraphs to me that it's either a Torrential Tribute set in the Battle Trap or Book of Moon set. So he's able to capitalize on the Trap Dust Shoot here. I don't know if he asks for whether he wants to retain turn player priority to activate MST to go down to 3 cards, but he doesn't. So he shows his hand anyways, and it looks like he has a Crow, Caius, and a Book of Life. So most likely he'll choose the Caius here, as it doesn't present, DD Crow doesn't present a current threat to the board. And if he has a set dupe Frog, as I suspect, the Mizuki cannot run over this, and Book of Life and Kalahana is kind of dead in this situation. So the question is, does he attack into a face down monster not knowing what the deck he's playing? It could be a Raiko, and so if he doesn't know, assuming he doesn't know what he's playing against, attacking in the face down into a Raiko is probably correct, so he doesn't tribute his monster for Caius. But it could be a hamster as well, so we don't know. So he does attack, and it is Snowman Eater, and he takes 200 life points here. So either way, he will be able to tribute out the Snowman Eater to for Caius to remove one of his back row. He passes his turn knowing that he doesn't have any back rows. He doesn't set the Call the Haunted, which is fine because he'll commit more into the Heavy Storm. His sets could also be a Bottomless as well, so anything that responds to a summon or an attack. He walls up with another defense monster, probably another Snowman Eater, or draws return. And I think he shuffles his hand when he draws return, but we'll just assume he did shuffle his hand, and that's a set new monster, not a D-Crow, that he can tribute off later. Player B tributes off his Treeborn Frog to go into Dustalos, so it looks like he does main deck Dustalos. He's hoping to probably hit not the DD Crow out of his hand, so that he can't chain it since it's resolving. So he goes to Dustalos effect, hoping to hit the DD Crow out of here in the event that he doesn't chain. If he does chain, at least he's able to hit a Call of Haunted or a Book of Life out of his hand. It looks like he's deciding whether he wants to Solemn Judgment his Dustalos here. Usually when players take a while to respond to the summon, it's usually because they have a set Solemn, and it makes sense that he would have a set Solemn because he did set 2 on his first turn. So it looks like he chains the DD Crow to his effect, and he activates Bottomless as Chain Link 3 because it's in the summoning window, and then he hits the Book of Life out of his hand. Alright, Dustalos does not do any damage because it didn't discard a monster out of his effect, so it looks like the temple is back into the player's on the left's turn. He draws another new monster to set. We don't know what his previous new monster is. It could be a Goblin Zombie set, so there's no need to flip him to because there's a Snowman Eater on the board that he can't run over. Could also be a Pyramid Turtle too. Yeah, any monster that's just basically too slow. So he decides to use Soul Exchange on the Steel set. Probably correct, but we're not too sure. Honestly, I probably would leave this alone and Soul Exchange the new one. Only because the new one is most likely going to be something that isn't something that wants to be attacked or float. And since this was a stale set, which means it could be a Goblin Zombie or a Pyramid Turtle, it's probably best to tribute off this monster and then sack for the Caius or the Ryza and then banish this one. It does do a Caius, and it was Sangan. We don't know what we banished because he takes it off the camera, but yeah, it kind of solidifies my decision that he should have Soul Exchanged the set monster and Caius the set monster, which was Sangan. And due to Soul Exchange giving up his battle phase, he will not be doing any more damage other than the burn damage from Caius. Which reminds me, I need to do the 1000 off. Okay, he searched for Goblin Zombie here off the Sangan ability, and he passes back his turn because he can't do his battle phase. So the tempo is in the favor of the Frogmire player. He sets he does a T set, hoping that he does not draw into another Caius or Ryza. The one thing about playing Recruiter decks or decks that float is that it falls heavily into the Caius decks. Any deck that plays Caius to remove the sets as opposed to attacking over it. So he has a Treeborn Frog in his graveyard. I think he prompts not to bring it out because it could be a Torrential still that is set. So he decides to normal summon the Substitute instead, special summoning Treeborn Frog. Looks like he calls priority to activate his effect, and he goes into the Swamp Frog to bounce as a priority onto the summoning window. And then he uses priority again to activate Substitute's effect to tribute off the Swamp Frog, pretty much thinning out his deck so that he doesn't draw into any more frogs. And hopefully he can draw into more Monarchs after that, or spell cards that are powerful. So he keeps calling priority here, hopefully not to trigger any abilities. And then he goes into Dupe Frog, and then calls priority again to go into a second Dupe Frog, I'm assuming. Okay, so now we have the Dupe Frog lock. So if the Goblin Zombie player wants to out this lock, he'll have to go into a Brionac or Tribute for Caius. There's probably another way to do it, but I'm not entirely sure just yet. Looks like he doesn't have Torrential set, so we can kind of assume that because his Goblin, he most likely set the Goblin Zombie, and so the two sets were there for a while now, and he didn't activate Torrential, so it tells me that it's probably a Solemn Judgment set, his previous set. So he sets another monster and passes. He draws for turn. Most likely Treeborn Frog could come out because it wasn't a Torrential before. Okay, so he chooses not to bring out the Treeborn Frog, which kind of mystifies me, because if he had brought out the Treeborn Frog, he would have a Caius that basically allows him to play out a Dupe Frog. So he banishes the set Goblin Zombie. Now he's able to attack his set monster if he chooses to. Oh, he takes 1,000, I believe. Another dark monster has been banished. He passes his turn without attacking. Makes sense because it could be a Prematurl, or it could be a Plague Spreader zombie. It could be anything actually. He does have a Mizuki in his graveyard, so he's able to do a lot with the zombies that actually manages to hit the graveyard. But since he keeps drawing, or he keeps recycling his Caius here, it's going to be pretty much a hard uphill battle for the Diva zombie player. So he still has the Call Haunted set potentially in his hand. So it could be a Call of Haunted set, the new set that he has, to allow him to basically push. It looks like it is a Goblin Zombie, his second one, I believe. He flips a Goblin Zombie and he sets another back row, or he chooses not to do that. Looks like he just flips the Goblin Zombie and then just passes here. Although I don't see a reason why he did that. There was no back row to worry about, so there was no need to flip the Goblin Zombie in case he was trying to bait anything out. He activates Reinforcement for the army. It looks like he's on the Junk Synchron variant, so he can search for his Junk Synchron and bring out. Or it looks like he plays DD Warrior. Never mind. Yeah, pretty much a secret tech here. So he summons the DD Warrior Lady so he can attempt to get the Goblin Zombie out of the field so he doesn't trigger his ability. He takes 400 damage here, and DD Warrior Lady does banish the Goblin Zombie, which is pretty good. And he has the ability to attack directly for 24 here. They settle the life points here, and he looks like he points the Caius here. So we're going to assume that he takes the 24 off the Caius here, while they're just settling their life point dispute. Yeah, so we're going to assume that he attacked with 2400. If he doesn't die after 3000, then we assume that he didn't attack. But most likely he did because there's no reason not to attack here. But Diva Zombie draws return, and looks like he's fresh out of zombies. Okay, he sets 2 new back rows, and most likely it's solidifying that he either draws into the Solemn to set 2, but he's been setting 2 pretty frequently. So it tells us that the old 2 sets here is going to be a Solemn Judgment. Most likely this is the Call to Haunted right here, and this is the Solemn Judgment. And then these 2 are like new back rows that he can use. So he declares an attack with Caius here, not summoning the Treeborn Frog so that it doesn't fall into a Torrential here. Takes down 2400 damage, bring him to 600 life points, and if he goes past the 3000 mark, we can assume that he didn't attack with Caius on that one turn. So he sets up back row, and it was a dust tornado that he was set. So this set was actually not a solemn; it was a dust tornado. So this probably is a either a call to haunted or a solemn judgment. Okay, he looks at his graveyard here, and he's fanning it out. He still has that Treeborn in graveyard that he has been not summoning. So it kind of puzzles me as to why he isn't summoning it, but it's fine. Maybe he's trying to dodge torrential. Maybe he's not. We don't know. So it looks like he finally draws a Deep Sea Diva. He activates her effect to activate to bring out either a Spine Gilman or another Diva. Looks like he goes for another Diva here, and probably is going to flip the Call to Haunted to make a synchro play. Or he has a Mind Control or Brain Control to steal the Caius and synchro with it. It can go either way here. If he does flip the Call to Haunted here, he can bring out, let's see, what do he has in graveyard? He has a Sangan in graveyard, and he has a Mizuki in graveyard. That was not banished for multiple Caiuses. Looks like he activates Return here, so Return was a good top deck here. So he can bring out all his banished Goblin Zombies. So this card is known to be a win more card, but in this scenario, this is a recovery card. So he's going to be paying 300 life points, or 1,200 life points, or 1,500 life points, depending on how much life points he has. So he can do a lot of plays here, and he still has his battle phase. So he's going to be doing a lot of plays. Most likely he's going to synchro to a Bryanak here to search with the Goblin Zombie. Even though he does have the Mizuki in graveyard here, won't be needed. He could probably search for a Zombie Master so that he could pitch it off the Bryo and continue his plays with Mizuki. But most likely Plague Spreader is probably going to be the target here for the Goblin Zombie so that he can keep recurring it with the Mizuki. Looks like he goes for the Goyo Guardian. He searches for most likely a Plague Spreader Zombie here. He's probably checking his grave for the number of dark monsters in his grave, so that he could spell summon Darkrum this turn. He could still go into a Bryanak here, even though the order is slightly different. Probably doesn't matter as much. So he does search for the Goblin Zombie here, or the Plague Spreader Zombie. He's going to synchro into another level 6 here, most likely a Bryo, to bounce anything that he sees problematically. Goblin Zombie does hit the graveyard again, so he can search for another zombie monster. So Zombie Master is probably going to be the most likely target if he does play it. And he searches for a Spirit Reaper. Okay, so definitely not searching for the Zombie Master. Okay, he uses the Bryanak ability to bounce the set monster with Bryanak. And then he contemplates whether he wants to use Plague Spreader Zombie with Mizuki. So with the Mizuki, he can bring out the Plague Spreader Zombie and then synchro with the Pyramid Turtle. I don't see a reason why he wouldn't want to synchro with the Bryanak here or the Goyo. But if he chooses to synchro with the Pyramid Turtle, he can make another level 6 synchro monster. My guess is Hades could come down here. Looks like he activates Call to Haunted here to bring out the Sangan. And with Sangan, he could make a Mistworm with the 3 monsters here, but he does fall victim to a Battle Fader or Gores if he decides to push here. So it looks like he's going to search, make an Android here. With Sangan, he can search for a main deck DD Crow, because we've been seeing DD Crow in his main deck, and he does. Okay, and then he can top deck for Plague here, if he chooses to. Looks like he activates Book of Life, so he can recur his Plague Spreader Zombie again. Doesn't look like he had a Treeborn Frog the entire time, which is kind of strange to me. Maybe he banished it earlier, that's why he's not been bringing out the Treeborn Frog. May have missed it. So he brings out Hades here, and now he goes into battle phase, attacks the Dude Frog, negates the effect of Dude Frog, uses Goyo Guardian to steal the Caius here. Not sure if I would steal the Caius here, because now he has 5 monsters on the board, so that Plague Spreader Zombie can't go into a Stardust in the event that he has Dark Dust Spirit in his deck. So he attacks 23 directly and 24 directly. He drops the Gores after the 24. Puts him at 3,300 life points. Gores is coming down here. Now he's kind of bound the back foot here. We don't know if he still has a Solemn set. So the Solemn will be able to protect any sort of Dark Dust Spirit in the event that he does play it. And so it looks like he's trying to bring out a Plague Spreader zombie with 5 monsters, but he cannot. Yeah, it looks like he tries to do it, but he cannot. And it looks like most likely he's going to pass here with a full monster board, unless he already normal summoned. Looks like he bounces Call the Haunted using Brian X effect, so he can reuse Call the Haunted, which is a really cool play. I didn't know you can do that, but that's actually really cool. Now he has Recursion in the event that something happens. He puts all the monsters to attack position, hoping that it's not a Mirror Force set, because he is only at 300 life points, and 300 life points should be able to clear him. So he has his witches with the new set. Most likely the new set is called Kalahane, so he wants to know if it's the old set. Most likely trying to MST the new set, or bait it out somehow. Looks like he activates Brain Control here, steals the Goyo Guardian as it is the strongest monster, and if he does decide to attack with everybody into a Mirror Force, he'll lose his Goyo Guardian at the very least. So he crashes into the android here with the token, and then he attacks Goyo Guardian hoping to steal the Bryanak. Oh, I forgot to take out 800 life points. So the Frogmark player is at 2500 life points. So it was a deep prison, it was not a solemn judgment, so our guess was wrong. Then he loses his own Goyo Guardian to the Brain Control. And with Gores, he can choose to attack, and we all know that that set is a Call of Haunted. Attacks over the Revived King Hades. Oh, I'm not sure if I would have done that, but Mizuki is used already, so I guess there's no harm in doing so. So he's going to take, what, 250 here? Is that 250? Yeah, 250 here. So it puts him at 50 life points. So it looks like he didn't choose to attack with Caius, because if he attacked with Caius, he could have just attacked the Bryanak for game here. But instead he chose to attack with the Revived King Hades, which kind of tells me that he didn't attack with the Caius that following turn, so he's actually at 1500 life points. So 1500 life points over the 250 would be 1250. So a Frogmark player would have won had he attacked with Caius. Or if he did attack with Caius, he should have attacked with the Bryanak for game, because he did activate the return here. Okay, he tributes for Caius and he targets the Bryanak. So it definitely tells me that he didn't take the he didn't take the 24. So he's at 1250 most likely. So we're gonna put 1250 instead of 2550. And then he's going to be at, what was it? 2500. So those will be the life points since he didn't attack with Caius. So he draws into probably another Diva. No, he's summons a Zombie Master. Probably had it in his hand because he didn't search it. So he dumps the Crow, and then he synchros with this Caius to make a Thought Ruler. So Thought Ruler, he's going to gain some life points here. Attacks over the Caius for 300. So he's gonna gain the life points and goes back up to 3650, and then Zombie Master attacks directly for game, I believe. Okay, so I guess they did some calculation. So some misplays from the Frogmark player for sure. Yeah, if he attacked with Caius, it would have been a different game. Not too sure what happened to the Treeborn Frog in the beginning of the game when he tributed for the Stalos. Maybe he DD Crowed it. Let me see here. Oh yeah, he did DD Crow it. So I guess I forgot that he DD Crowed the Treeborn Frog. Yes, I do forget. So he did activate Caius, and then he chained D-Crow and then Bottomless Chapel to the Stalos. So game 2 here is going to start. Most likely, if I was the Frogmark player, if I choose a side pulling the rug, it would interfere with the Treeborn Frog from coming out, but it is good in theory because you can stop all the Deep Sea Divas. But Vanity's Fiend is most likely going to be the side deck choice, as it would lock out all the special summons. But Diva Zombies is really consistent because it plays back rows, so it can out the Vanity's Fiend here. On the left side, I would side deck either Master Restrict and pulling the rug, or pretty much keeping your DD Crows for the Treeborn Frog. Alright, game 2 is now going to be starting here. Frogmark player is going to start off his turn here with a T-set. Much like last turn, he could have a Dust Shoot, but T-sets are kind of common nowadays, I guess, with the Frogmark player. So anyways, he does a T-set, most likely going to be a Duke Frog set. Instead of challenging the set, he the zombie player decides to match with the T set. Zombie player decides to almost match the T set, except he's going to set another back row, destroying a set skill drain. Okay, very interesting side deck for sure. Now I'm starting to see the power of skill drain in this matchup, just because if he decides to dupe frog lock, the skill drain can turn that off and also turn off the Caiuses and all the Monarchs. So a really good side deck choice for sure. So, but the MST was able to clear out the skill drain here. Frog and Monarch player does his draw for turn, and he decides whether he wants to tribute for that set monster for either the substitute effect or for a Monarch effect. So he summons the substitute here, tributes it off right away, calling priority, getting the swap frog to dump the G-born frog here. And instead of attacking, he's most likely going to bounce. No, he does actually attack into the monster, and it's a Plague Spreader zombie, and then he bounces. He probably wanted to see if the set card was going to be something that he wants to Caius later. So he gets a G-born frog, brings it out. We still don't know what the set card is. Could be something. He didn't want to tribute it last turn, so he goes into the Unifrog line, where he could pretty much go into that monster. Okay, so this is a different frog matchup. So he brings into the Death Frog because it is able to be special summoned using Substitute, and with the Unifrog and the Death Frog, he can destroy a back row if it does damage. So he activates Deep Prison on the Unifrog. So he can protect his other back row, and he attacks directly for 1900. Okay, he draws for turn now, the Diva frog player, or the Diva zombie player. I'm not sure what we can do in this position here. We don't know what monster he might have. He summons the zombie master, calls priority, brings out the Plague Spreader zombie that was attacked, and now he can go into Revive King Hades or Dupe Frog or Goyo Guardian. He decides to go into Goyo Guardian so he can steal a Death Frog. Takes the 900 damage here. And now he's at 700 life points, and now he has a Death Frog on his field. The zombie player did have to commit another card just to make this play, but that's fine. So with the Frog Monarch, that's what you kind of want. You want your opponent to commit a little bit more resources so you can just remove their stuff off the board with Caius or Ryza. He special summons the Swap Frog here. It looks like he's going to decide to go for a return effect with the Swap Frog. And then he's probably going to tribute for a Monarch here. No, he goes for the Junk Synchron play, and then he bounces back to Junk Synchron. Now he has a Field of Frogs. Okay, cool. He activates Spiritual Water Art. It looks like he did side that card in so that he could, because he was going to go first. And since he is going first, he's able to tribute off a water monster, look at his opponent's hand to discard stuff. And right off the bat, I would probably choose, if I chose the Diva, then the Fossil Dyna is going to be a problematic later. If I choose the Fossil Dyna, the Divas can make a synchro play if he chooses synchro with any of the monsters that he steals. And I believe from my deck list coverage, he does not play Spine Gilman, so looks like he discards the Fossil Dyna here. The thing about playing against the zombie matchup is that if you discard a monster out of their hand, they can call the Haunted back, assuming that's a set Call the Haunted. So this could be pretty nasty if that's a Call the Haunted set, because he just enabled his special summon lock. So he decides to attack with Goyo Guardian, steals the Swap Frog. He could choose to dump a frog monster in his deck if he has any. So that's an interesting side deck choice if you decide to go with the Goyo Guardian line. Steal the Swap Frog so he can dump a Treeborn. But there's no need. So he goes into the Treeborn here. Still has his Junk Synchron in his deck, or in his hand, so he can probably make a Synchron play here. I'm not sure what his sets monster still is. Still a mystery to us what he may have sided. Here he has a level 6 monster he can synchro into. Goyo Guardian could crash into his Goyo Guardian, but looks like he goes into the Bryanak here, discards the Swap Frog, calls priority, and he activates Bottomless Shuffle. Still a mystery set monster, we have not seen what it is. So he sets another back row and he passes over, and now he brings out a Treeborn Frog once again. Still not drawing any monsters that are Caius, but he did manage to bounce the Junk Synchron, or have a second copy of it. Looks like he's gonna go into the Armory Arm here, as it is bigger than the Swap Frog. He activates Bottomless Trap Hole again. He did bring out the Dupe Frog off the Junk Synchron, so Dupe Frog will be negated on the field, so he doesn't protect the monster from being attacked. So he summons the Mizuki here, awkwardly summoning it into the field, and then he brings out Treeborn Frog. At any moment's notice, like any Monarch would be very good here. because it would control the board. So he summons DD Warrior Lady, and it looks like he's going to decide to attack into the Mizuki and banish it. So he's going to take the 200 life points here. He's just going to wall up with his little frogs, providing an infinite wall until he decides to draw, or until he draws into a Monarch. He finally draws into a Monarch, he draws into a Ryza, and he activates Pulling the Rug to stop the Ryza effect. He passes turn here, he activates Reinforce from the army, he can summon another Junk Synchron, his third one I believe, and now he can synchro into something strong here, like a Catastor or an Android. Looks like he just attacks over the Swap Frog so he can bounce it as a cost, and now he can reuse it for the next turn. A lot of good defense for sure in this on the side of the Frog Monarch player. Passes here, draws nothing. So here he passes with nothing on the board, so we have to contemplate whether it's Gores or not. So he brings out Treeborn Frog and he tributes for the stalls, hoping to hit the Gores out of his hand. But he does have 4 cards in hand, so unlikely to hit. 25% chance, hits to Call the Haunted, and he attacks for 2400 directly, not caring if it's Gores or not. Yeah, it was most likely a Gores because he didn't set the Call the Haunted set, because Call the Haunted is one of those cards that sticks on the board to prevent Gores from coming out. So most likely he did have a Gores. Decides to bounce the stalls with Swart Frog. And now he's going to have to stare down a Gores and a token for 2400. He can attack over the Duke Frog here, and then he's going to add a monster back. He's going to add back a Death Frog, and he attacks over the Swap Frog for 1700 life points. So the stalls will be able to tribute over another monster here. Looks like he does not play. He DD Crows the Treeborn Frog here, so he's going to have to commit to the Stalos or a Caius if he drew into it. Looks like he activates Soul Exchange to go into the Stalls play. Won't take any damage. We'll hit another card out of his hand. He discards a Allure of Darkness. No battle phase here, so he won't be able to crash into the token. Diva Zombie player halves to the Stalls here and attacks over the Stalls for 100 life points. And token destroys the Dupe Frog. Okay, so he had a Dupe Frog set from the beginning of the game. Searches for the Swap Frog, special summons the Swap Frog so he can dump the Treeborn Frog. And so now DD Crow is now, his first DD Crow lost value. Swap Frog is now on the board. He can choose whether to go into a Substoad line where he ends on a Dupe Frog. Goes into the Junk Sanger on play, I forgot he did. Still has it in his hand. Special summons the Dupe Frog out. Synchro summons into either a Black Rose to blow up the board. And he does bring out a Black Rose to blow up the board. So now the game is simplified. Summons his Falsodina. Oh, that's a good Falsodina. So now that Falsodina is going to be challenging his board. He did run out of Dupe Frogs, or he did use up 2 Dupe Frogs already. So it will be challenging to run over the Falsodina. He could have drawn into a Subtoad set. Attacks into a Snowmander, which is really good. Takes the 700 here to out the, to pretty much out the Falsodina here. Pretty good tech on the Frogmonger side to be able to anticipate the side deck. So now his Treeborn Frog can come out, and at any point in time he can tribute for another Monarch. So he sets another card and passes. So he top decks for Plague Spreader Zombie here since he has not used it, and he's going to tribute for Caius to banish the Treeborn, and he's going to flip the Perimeter Turtle, attack over the Substoad, and then pass here. So even if he didn't have the Snowmander, he would have drawn into a Substoad to defend against the Falsodina. So he activates Brain Control here, pays 800 life points to steal the Caius here. Oh, and it looks like time was called, and it looks like unfortunately the Frogmar player had higher life points, which is weird. So that should have been a draw. So it might have been a draw. But the end of the match procedure is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, it looks like they just ended the game because their teammates won. So it looks like it was a stalemate. We're not sure what the outcome of this game could have been in. But activating the brain control was a good swing, so it could have been a draw, or it could have been a win off on the Frogmire player. Yeah, that was my commentary video for the games against Frogmire versus the Diva Zombies. Very interesting matchup because both players are anticipating what could be side decked, and they did draw the counter side decks to each other. For Falsodina on the left side, the Frogmire player was able to side deck a Snowmander to deal with that situation. Not sure if he side decks a Vanity's Fiend. We'll never know, but Vanity's Fiend would be good in theory, and we see that the Diva Zombie player still kept his main deck DD Crows in his deck, to out the Treeborn Frog, and he was able to DD Crow one of his Treeborn Frogs and pretty much allow him to control the graveyard so that he doesn't have a recurring Treeborn Frog. And on top of that, we saw in game 1 the return was really good as a recovery card, and also ultimately reestablished board control, and that was really good of that. And also we see that both players are playing the Armory Arm Colossal Fighter OTK, because I do see an Armory Arm on the both players' extra deck, so that kind of tells me that the Junk Synchron Frog deck can do the Colossal Fighter OTK in one turn. I also want to point out the fact that he did side out the Pulling the Rug as well, which is really good against the Frog Martin matchup, but he did try to play around it with the Unifrog. He was able to summon the Unifrog off of the Substitute. The Unifrog was able to do direct damage, and then from there, hopefully he was able to hit the Pulling the Rug before summoning up a Monarch. So that was one thing that he did to counterplay the Pulling the Rug. Additionally, he did sided the Spiritual Water Art, which is a very interesting side deck. However, I probably wouldn't side it against zombies just because they have a lot of cards that allow them to float in the graveyard. So discarding a Mizuki, Plague Spreader, or any of the zombies that want to be revived from the graveyard, probably not the best idea. But I could see the theory behind it. If you do go first, you can actually hit Pulling the Rug out of a person's hand, or even a Master Restrict. So yeah, and yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and the commentary for Commentary Monday. I'll be doing another one for next Monday, and yeah, don't forget to like this video and potentially subscribe if you're watching. Thank you very much. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.